as we begin, we would like you to reflect on your journey of building IdeaForge from a startup to India's largest drone manufacturer company. So, if you could share kind of highs and lows of this period and what motivated you to keep moving forward despite having the hurdles throughout the journey.
Sure, Abhishek. What I'll do is I'll quickly take about 3-4 minutes to give a brief history of IdeaForge and how we started doing what we started doing. So, we were students at IIT Bombay, and we used to do a lot of technology projects. We had an innovation cell at IIT Bombay where, fascinatingly, they said that they are willing to fund anyone's ideas as long as they are inventive. And I used to promote that innovation cell because I was a beneficiary of that cell. And while promoting, one afternoon, one of my now co-founders, Rahul, came up to me and he said, I want to make a hovercraft and float it in the Powai Lake next to the campus. And that got me also excited. I had a bunch of propellers from some of the previous projects that I had. We rigged a few hovercrafts together in a short span of time, and we felt that it's not as innovative as an innovation cell idea that they will give us capital for. So we thought that we have to come up with something more inventive. And in the process of trying to come up with something more inventive, we discovered the quadcopter configuration. We felt like we have changed the world of aviation forever, etc., not knowing that it's something that was discovered really long back. But for us, I think it was a eureka moment, and we started prototyping it. And in 2004, we built our first drone actually. And that is sort of the beginning of our journey in exploring this domain for the next few years. We kept working on building new prototypes. We started working with IIT Bombay's aerospace department to create certain data loggers for hobby aircrafts that would potentially lead to collection of data of how they fly, and maybe they could be used as an autopilot. We knew we have built an autopilot, so we went ahead and actually built the full autopilot as well as the entire autonomous drone. And we helped IIT Bombay secure top honors in a competition alongside MIT in 2008. And that drew a lot of attention to us in the early days, and that allowed us to essentially then become a vendor to several labs in India who were looking to get hands on the autopilots that we had built so that they could fully automate many of the drones that they have. So in 2008, we delivered the world's smallest and lightest autopilot to them for enabling their programs. As well as in 2008, while we were doing this exploration and we had a lot of traction here, when the 2008 attacks happened in Mumbai and we saw that helicopters are being used to try and look into the third and fourth floor of the hotel, we felt like our drones could have been a potential use case that would have really helped in that situation and would have helped mitigate the risk as well, which was attendant with a very large flying object trying to obviously look into a specific scene and a scenario. And therefore, in 2008, we decided that we'll take all the fun we were having with the technology and make a product out of it for our forces. And 2009, we launched our first drone. We made our first sale in 2010. And from then on, we've essentially over the years focused on three core areas. One is building cutting edge technology. We've always wanted to build the best performing systems in the world in our category. We've also made sure that when we build a system, it is useful for the end customer. It is something that they can actually deploy in the field and get an outcome from. And last but not the least, we were focused on making sure that the customer adopts the technology and that they are not just able to buy a drone from us, but actually able to use a drone, because from the very beginning, the mindset was that if we are building something, it should be useful. And if it is useful, then they should use it every day, because if they don't use it, they will buy a couple of them and they're not going to buy any more because it's not useful. So given the early stage of that technology and that focus, we kept working with our customers, and presently our customers have flown over 450,000 missions on our drones. And these missions have been flown in the entire subcontinent of our country. And we have flown it in the high altitudes at 6,000 meters plus altitude with minus 30 degrees operating temperature, to operating them in the deserts in Rajasthan at plus 50, plus 55 degrees centigrade temperature, or operating it on the marine coast of the country, operating it in rains, dusty environment. So there are a large number of terrain complications and situations in which our systems are deployed on a daily basis. In fact, almost every 5 minutes, an IdeaForge drone takes off in the country to do either a surveillance or a mapping mission. And I think that dogged focus on building something which is useful, something which allowed us to uh, build in the right way over the years. It allowed us to build technology. Like I mentioned, the focus was to always try and build world's first or world's best technology. And that focus allowed us to continue to be innovative. And when the market situation changed in terms of when the pandemic happened, drones shifted from being a good to have technology to becoming a must have technology. And pandemic was one trigger, and then the global geopolitical situation with the war between Armenia, Azerbaijan, the incursion at our borders, or the attendant wars that we've seen progressively since then, they've all basically accentuated the fact that you're not going to see a war in the future that does not involve drones. In fact, they've become the mainstay or the main conversation weapon to create a very different environment. And that evolution is something which is what we are seeing play out in front of our eyes in real world conditions. And that's inflection point essentially transitioned from the technology being a good to have tech to a must have tech that now is well on its way to getting inducted in large numbers in our forces. And of course, in the rest of the country as well, the country opened up its regulations for drones, and that allowed us to create a very useful and conducive environment for inducting it, not just for defense use cases, but for civilian use cases as well, be it law enforcement, mapping, inspections, or many other uses. Hopefully, eventually, all the way to delivery and other use cases as well. And Abhishek, I remember you mentioned to highlight challenges. I think when you're building a hardware startup, I think I have a very you can say I have a very funny expression for it that in every investor event in the early days, I used to be like the tiger out of his cage in a zoo. People would come to the zoo to see the tiger, but when he's out of his cage, nobody will come near them, right? So that's the kind of experience we had in terms of raising capital, and that really built a very different muscle in us, in the sense that it forced us to think of how can we make something that is desirable for the end customer, and how can we earn enough from it that we can survive as a bootstrapping enterprise. So that sort of DNA is what we carry even today, and that's the reason perhaps why the way we lead the business is to drive profitability as well, along with managing induction and other aspects of what we drive and deliver.